Hi everybody and welcome back to Time to Go. Bob here. Really appreciate you stopping by the channel today. So today guys, I've got a new Seiko that I'm really excited to be able to share with you guys. The watch we're going to be taking a look at is the Seiko Landmaster GMT. This is the 25th anniversary one and just a really cool and unique watch. Now, this was lent into the channel by a good friend of mine, Chris. He's a great collector of anything from Seiko to Grand Seiko to Rolex and everything in between. His collection is heavy on the Seiko side of things, though, with some really unique pieces, including this one. So really big thanks to Chris for lending this one in. Make sure to give him a follow if you are on Instagram at Seikoholic7 to check out some of the rest of his collection. But let's get into the Landmaster. Alright, so earlier this year, Seiko announced the launch of the new Landmaster to mark the 25th anniversary of the first Landmaster. These new models are very different in design, so it's not a reissue, but just in honor of those first Landmasters. Now, there's two models, the SBEJ001. It's very similar to this, but with red highlights. It's a regular production versus the model we have here today, which is the SBEJ003, which is limited to 500 pieces. Another difference between the two is this one has the black bezel versus the steel bezel on the 001. So first thing you're going to notice with this watch that's going to catch your eye right away is that unicorn crown at 12. Not something you see every day on a Seiko, but I love the look. Gives it a nice symmetry and adds to the comfort and wearability with no crown against your wrist. So we've got some pretty beastly specs on this one as far as case dimensions go, and we'll start off with the case width, which comes in at a little over 46.5 millimeters. Lug to lug is just under 52 millimeters. We have a 24 millimeter lug opening, and the thickness is 16 millimeters. Now, like a lot of Seikos, this does wear a little smaller than you'd think, and I think it's for two reasons. One is the lack of a crown or crown guards on the side of the case, and the other is I find that with a lot of watches your eye is drawn to the bezel first. This bezel is narrower than the case at about 44 millimeters. Still definitely a beefy watch, but I like it how it wears on my 7¼ inch wrist. This is titanium too, by the way, so weight wise it's not bad at all. The watch at the moment is on an aftermarket strap, which I think is a really nice pairing, but the watch comes on this really great bracelet, also titanium, and one of the coolest things about it, if we just open it up here, is we've got that same ratcheting dive extension that you'd see on the Marine Master watches, and I really like that. Now, you might ask yourself, why a dive extension on a field/GMT watch? For me, I look at this as a travel watch, and if you're going to more humid climates or even flying, when you get that bit of a wrist swell, it's nice to be able to have that adjustment on the fly. And depending on what you're doing, even having the option to wear this over a sleeve or a glove is nice to have. The watch has a sapphire crystal with AR, and you can see that blue hue with the reflection of the studio lights there. The water resist is 200 meters, and the watch houses the 6R64 movement, which is a newer movement in the 6R line. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first watch from Seiko using it. It's a 29 joule movement, hacking and hand winding with a 45-hour power reserve. The dial at first is a lot to look at, but with the way it's designed, you get used to it pretty fast. So just a quick tour of what we're looking at here. Up top, we have the gold applied Seiko with the Prospex logo. Just below that, at 9, we have automatic GMT 20 bar with the GMT printed in gold. The subdial at 3 shows the date, and down around the 630 is the power reserve. Each hand in the handset is so unique to each other that once you get used to it, it's really easy to read. I especially like that partially skeletonized hour hand and the gold GMT hand. Those nice large applied hour markers along with the hands have got a heavy dose of lume, right up there with some of the best Seiko diver lume. Even the north, south, east, and west markings on the compass bezel are lumed. The bezel is a bidirectional bezel, no clicks, but it has a nice amount of resistance. I've done a couple videos on using a compass bezel as well as setting the GMT function on a watch, so I'm not going to cover that today, but I'll post a couple links to where you can find those videos in the description below. Some GMT watches function a little differently depending on the movement, but in this case, the crown sets your local time, and I'll just unscrew the crown here and show you guys quickly. So you can set your local time independently, where the GMT hand would be your reference time, which a lot of people will have set to the GMT time zone. The crown, by the way, is very easy to operate. Really, really smooth winding action and screws easily back in. When it comes to the case finish is just next level. The polish and brushwork is really well done. The lines are just so sharp. I love that the lugs at 6 are curved, where the lugs by the crown have all these angles. It just gives it a unique and interesting look. Oh, the lugs, by the way, are drilled for easy strap changes. If we look at the case back, the inner portion is polished with the Seiko and the Prospex logo, limited edition, and the number of this particular watch. And it's nice that they have added the markings for the time zones here on the outer part of the case back. Not sure what you guys think about this watch, but I just love it. It's such a unique and cool design. So let's take a quick look on wrist. Alright, so again, I find this wears really well considering the size, and not having a crown against your wrist is really comfortable. Gives you a bit of extra range of motion without having the crown pinching against your skin. As far as the price goes, these aren't cheap. I've seen them between $1,500 to $1,600 US. I know Chris got his a little cheaper than that, so maybe if you shop around you might find a better deal. As far as negatives go, one thing that Chris pointed out that I wouldn't have noticed with it being on the strap, but the crown does touch the bracelet if you bend the bracelet upwards. It's not going to happen on wrist, but if you get one, just watch out for that. Other than that, I love the watch. I think it's a great offering from Seiko. So again, a big thanks to Chris for letting us check this one out. I'm going to leave a link to his Instagram below. Make sure to give him a follow. Really appreciate you guys stopping by the channel today, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.